This is Mr. Anderson from Keller Community College. We are going to be looking at part 2 of the video concerning factoring trinomials. These are the more challenging ones from chapter 5 of the Intermediate Algebra textbook, section 4. What makes these challenging is that you'll notice that the first term of these 4 examples here are not 1. The leading coefficient is not a 1, which means that the expression, like let's take this first one for example, the f of FOIL could be either 6x and 1x, or it could be 2x and 3x. And what makes things a lot more complicated is now we have to get this 12 to make the middle number 17 with these modifiers 6 and 1, 2 and 3. So it becomes a big guess and check fest. But I have found over the course of my teaching that there's a great method to get this to look like a problem from up above, and using what we know about 4-term factoring, we can group this into a factorable problem. So using what we learned in the previous section, we're going to take this problem, factor it using the grouping method, and also through a little bit of guess and check, we're going to be able to get to our answer. So here's how we start. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 6 and multiply it by the 12. So take my first term, leading coefficient, and then multiply it by the solo number here. 6 times 12 is 72. What this means is that now I'm going to take my 72 and try to find factors of 72 to make negative 17. Now, since this is a positive third term and a negative second term, then I have to look at ways to break down 72 with 2 negatives. For example, negative 1 and negative 72 multiply to make 72, but it doesn't add to make 17. So I have to keep going through my process of elimination and having a calculator on to run through the possibilities by going 72 divided by 2 and get your other factor. We can then test to see if that makes negative 17, which it doesn't. This makes negative 38. So I try dividing by 3. And I'll just keep checking until I get whole number answers, and you can see that these two don't make 17. Dividing by 4 also gives me another integer. Negative 4 and negative 18 multiply to make positive 72, but don't add to make 17. And 5 doesn't work. 6 gives us negative 12. Now you'll see that I'm getting closer. Negative 6 and negative 12 make negative 18. Still close, but no cigar. Dividing by 7 gives me a decimal. Dividing by 8, though, gives me a whole number, which is negative 9. And that is the key. Negative 8 and negative 9 multiply to make 72 and add to make negative 17. So here is the first step. The first step was just multiplying the 6 times 12 to get our magic number. Then we go and check our possibilities until we get to the one that makes that combination that will make the middle here. Now, what this does, though, is this actually sets up my problem to make this into a grouping problem. See, the 6x squared and the 12 are going to stay exactly the same. But now I'm going to take that negative 17 and I'm going to change that into my negative 8 and negative 9x. See, what I've done is I've taken my middle term. It's still negative 17, but now it's negative 8 and negative 9. And that's the combination that we found. Now what I can do is I can use grouping to factor this problem like I did in the previous section, where I group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms together and get my way of factoring the 2 parentheses to match, and voila, I'll have my problem factored. 6 and 8, the number to pull out of 6x squared and 8x squared is going to be 2x, which leaves me with 3x minus 4. The numbers that negative 9x and positive 12 have in common, remembering my little step here, we should try to pull out a negative, so we're going to pull out a negative 3, which leaves me with 3x minus 4. Check it out. Now I have the 2 matching parentheses and the 2 non-matching terms. I put the 2 non-matching terms together, 2x minus 3, and I put the 3x minus 4 together in one parenthesis. And again, if you're curious about this step, watch 2 videos ago when we did section 5 or chapter 5 section 3. And here's my problem. It's done. 2 and 3 make 6. Negative 3 and negative 4 make positive 12. And my term cables in the middle, my 2 times negative 4 and my negative 3 times 3 makes negative 17. That's my answer. Yeah, I did have to guess and check quite a bit, but if you actually find yourself going through this pattern over and over, you will get pretty efficient in this problem. I strongly recommend a calculator because when I do this next one with you, 6x squared plus 7x minus 24, 6 times negative 24 is negative 144. Now you'll notice that this is going to give us a lot of factors, and I would check these factors each time we do it. Now, since this is a negative 144, I'm going to choose 1 and 144, but you're probably wondering, well, which one should be negative? Well, since my middle term is positive, I'm always going to make my bigger number positive, so that's going to be my smaller number is going to be the negative. This is so I don't have to write down 1 and negative 144. So this cuts down my work. So I am going to try to keep going until I get a 7. This makes 143, so I think I'm going to have to keep going. Now if I go 2 and 72, that makes 144. And if I put a negative there, because it has to make a negative, this still gets to 70, which is nowhere close to this. You might be thinking to yourself, maybe I should go to someplace more in the middle, but I'm kind of doing this in a very step-by-step approach here. So just try the numbers up the chart until you find the one that works. This doesn't work, that's 45. Try dividing by 4, and you'll see I get 36, and these two together make 32. Dividing by 5 gives me a decimal. Dividing by 6 gives me 24. We're getting close because that's 18 when I put these together. Dividing by 7 gives me a decimal. Dividing by 8 and 18, this gives me positive 10. Whoa, we're getting close. Okay, how about the next one? Dividing by 9 and 6 gives me 16. Negative 9 and 16 gives me positive 7. So we have our match. And now what we're going to do is we're going to plug that 9 and 16 in for our middle term there. So the middle term is no longer 7x. The middle term is going to be negative 9x plus 16x. And you'll see that ta-da, actually does a pretty good job in there. This will then, let me move this here. This is going to be 6x squared. And this is going to be minus 24. Now we're going to group this together, and we're going to group this together. So we got these grouped and this grouped. 6x squared minus 9x. This is going to be, let's see, divide this by 3x, factor out the 3x, so that gives me a 2x minus 3. And in this problem, I'm going to factor out a 4, which gives me a 2x minus 3 again. So when I have these matched parentheses, I know I did the problem right. So I have my 2x minus 3 in one set of parentheses, and the other set of parentheses is 3x plus 4. This is showing you that I can do these in either order. You'll notice that here the 3x minus 4 is second versus the 2x minus 3. Since multiplication is commutative, you can do them in any order. Alright, and pretty much for the rest of this video, I will be just grinding through these problems step by step. I strongly encourage you to try to do these by yourself and watch the videos. In fact, watch the video if and only if you find yourself, wanting to check your answer, or if you're lost or confused. Alright, so multiplying the 15 times a negative 2 is negative 30. We're going to try to find a negative 13, so we're going to start off with 1 and 30. Now, which one should be negative, the 1 or the 30? Well, since this is a middle term is negative, I'm going to put the negatives with the bigger numbers, because that way I can ensure that I'll have a negative. And so this gives me a negative 29. Looks like I'm moving on. 2 and 15 make 30, and I'm going to put the negative with the 15, and that gives me my combination. So only 2 steps away, unlike the last two problems where I was like many steps away. This was a lot faster. So what I'm going to do is then split this into two terms right here. I can use my arrows to show you that it's going to be 2x minus 15x. This begs the question, well, what if I wrote my negative 15x first and my 2x second? The beautiful thing about this is that you can put these in any order, and it will give you the right answer when you do your factoring by grouping. And you can try it the other way. It's solid. It's such a great technique here. You'll notice that there's nothing to factor out of these two other than just an x. So I'm going to have 15x plus 2. And then here, the only thing I can factor out is a negative 1. And that gives me 15x plus 2. Since I have my matched parentheses, I am good to go. X minus 1 is my two terms that were separate that I'm going to put together, and my 15x plus 2 is going to go together like that. All right, let's check this out. 8 times 5, that's going to be 40. All right, so let's start listing the factors of 40. This is going to be 1 and 40. Since the middle term is negative and this is positive, I'm going to make both of these negative to get me the positive 40 and possibly a negative 22. No, that didn't work. So here we go with the next one, 2 and 20. If I make both of these negatives and add them together, wow, I got my answer right in 2 steps. Man, sometimes things just work out nicely that way. I'm going to split this up. So I've got negative 2x and negative 20x, and I've got 8x squared plus 5. All right, let's go factor these two terms out here. So this is going to be, let's see, in this part, we can factor out a 2x, which leaves me with 4x minus 1. And here I'm going to factor out a negative 4, I think, wait a second, negative 5, and that will leave me with positive 4x minus 1. Hey, it works out. Now I have 2x minus 5 and 4x minus 1. Now for this problem, I want to prove to you that if you in the middle step flip the order of your of this 2x and 20 or negative 20 there, you'll still get the problem right. Let's start off, let's test that hypothesis with just one example. This is not a proof, this is just showing you what would happen if you did it the other way. Check that out. Now in my first two terms here, what can divide 8 and 20 perfectly? That would be 4, and divide x squared and x perfectly would just be x, which leaves me with 2x minus 5. Then in the second pair of terms, if I factor out a negative 1, that would give me a positive 2x minus 5. And remember, we need to have these parentheses kind of link up here, so I get 4x minus 1 and 2x minus 5. So you see that no matter which way you do it, you're going to get the right answer, whether you put it in this order or you chose to put it into the other order. What's great about that is personal preferences may change the work, but the answers will be the same. And FOIL to check your answer if you doubt me. Now, here comes the gauntlet. We've got a lot of problems to look at here, and I'm just, again, going to go through these, and if you want to work ahead and come back and check your answers here, you'll find that these are actually a little bit less lengthy at the start here, because when you take your 3 times 2, you get an answer of 6, and there's just not a lot of factors of 6. It's going to be 6, and let's list the factors of 6, 1 and 6. Well, 1 and 6 doesn't make 5, 1 and 6 make 7, but 2 and 3 make 5, and so let's go set this up. So my 3x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 2, and then we factor the first two terms. All we can do is pull out an x, 3x plus 2, and all we can pull out of here is a 1, 3x plus 2, and then we put our terms that are solo together, and our terms that are in parentheses that match, put them together. There we go. That is our answer for that problem. Same thing over here, another quick problem. 5 and 6 make a total of 30. Now, since the middle term is negative, we're going to have to put some things in here. 1 and 30. We're going to have negatives there to make the negative 17. That doesn't work. Let's try negative 2 and negative 15. Hey, that works. So right away, we have our 5x squared minus 2x minus 15x plus 6. And then we look at the first two terms. What can we factor out? Just an x. And we have 5x minus 2. What can we factor out of these two terms here? Well, how about a negative 3? And that gives me a 5x minus 2. And then we put our two terms that are separate together in one parenthesis, and 5x minus 2 in the other. And now we have our answer. Okay, looking at the next one, 3 and negative 5, this makes negative 15. We have to get a positive 14 here, so we want 1 and 15, but since we want a positive 15, I'm going to put a negative with the smaller number. And that's our answer. Wow, check that out. That is the first factor we tried, and it works right on time. 3x squared minus 1x. Again, There's my 1x. It's just there temporarily. I normally wouldn't write 1x. It would just be an x. But we can factor out of something of these first two terms, which is going to be an x. So this is 3x minus 1. What do you factor out here? 3. 3x minus 1. So what we have here is x plus 3. And what we have here is 3x minus 1. And there's our factored problem. If you FOIL, you'll see that these are the answers. Okay, another problem here. 3 times negative 4. This is going to be negative 12. Now what I'll do is check to see how I can get a negative 1 in the middle here. So let's try 1 and 12. Now which one should be negative? Since I want a negative in the middle here, I want my bigger number to be negative. That doesn't make a negative 1. Let's try 2 and 6. That doesn't make a negative 1. Let's try 3 and 4. That makes a negative 1. So let's go split this up as I write 3x squared plus 3x minus 4x minus 4. So I took my negative 1x and made it positive 3x minus 4x. Factor the first two, factor out the 3x. And this gives me an x plus 1. And here factor out a negative 4, and that gives me x plus 1. And now put my 3x minus 4 together, and put my x plus 1 together. Hooray! I got another problem that I can FOIL and check my answer. Alright, getting down to the final 6 here. Now, we're going to have something happen here in this second example right there, and I think it's going to be kind of wise that you watch this. But first, we're going to have a big factorable problem here, and this is why you're going to want to have your calculator handy. Because when you multiply 3 times negative 28, you get negative 84. Huge number. So this, again, we want to take our time, divide it by 1, and that gives me 1 and 84. My middle term is negative, so we're going to put that here. Nowhere close. So we're going to divide 84 by 2, which gives me 2 and 42. Put my negative here. This gives me a negative 40. Not close yet. Let's try dividing by 3, and 3 goes into 84 evenly with 28. And if I put my negative there with the 28, hey, we don't have to go any further. That's as far as we need to go. You don't need to list out all the factors if you find yours along the way. So this is 3x squared plus 3x minus 28x minus 28. So that's just changing my middle term to look like 3x minus 28x. Factor out the first two terms here. We can factor out a 3x because that's what they have in common. So x plus 1. How about the second two terms here? Well, let's factor out, in this case, a negative 28. If we factor out a negative 28, we get x plus 1 again. And here we have our answer, 3x minus 28. And then we have our x plus 1. Now, I want to do this next problem with you. This is going to be like, if you're scanning through this video, hopefully you're seeing these stars show up here. This is a problem to look out for. So please pause, hopefully you haven't skipped past this right there, because there's some interesting things about this problem. Let's say that you just go 3 times negative 18. 3 times negative 18 is negative 54. Going from here, we're going to list our factors here of negative 54. We're going to go 1 and 54, and since I want a positive number there, I'm going to put my negative with the smaller number. Well, that doesn't give me 3, so now I'm going to try 2. 2 divides 54 evenly. 2 and 27 doesn't get me 3, so keep going. Try dividing by 3, gives me a whole number of 18. Well, I'm getting close, but still not there yet. Try dividing by 4. Gives me a decimal. 5 gives me a decimal, but 6 does not give me a decimal. 6 gives me the number 9. Put the negative with the 6, and blammo, I have my answer. So here I go. I'm going to rewrite the problem to the right specifically for the purpose that I start all this. So I'm going to have, let's see here, 3x squared minus 6x plus 9x minus 18. Alright, so I've already spent some time on this problem, and the point is that you could have made this problem a lot easier from the start, but let's continue. We're going to factor out a 3x from this problem, and then we're going to have x minus 2. And then we're going to factor out a 3 from these next two. Let's see, 3. Going to factor out a 9 from these next two terms here, I think. Hold on a second here. No, can't. You can factor out a 9, and that's going to give me an x minus 2. 2. So now I put this together here, and what I have is my 3x plus 9, and I have my x minus 2. You go to the back of the book, and you check your answer, and this is not what the back of the book says. And you're kind of wondering why not. I foiled this, I checked it out, I made sure it worked, but this is not what the back of the book says. The back of the book says this: 3 times the quantity of just x plus 3, and then x minus 2, and you go, well, why the heck is this considered the answer? And it is the answer, because you'll notice that in the 3x plus 9, you could still factor out a 3. And you should probably facepalm for just a second here, because you'll notice that in the beginning of the problem, check it out. Do you notice that all these 3 terms are divisible by 3? Which brings up the first rule of factoring, which we learned in section 2 of chapter 5, is that, oh my gosh, I should be looking for problems when they have a common factor that I can remove. Look at all these. They're all divisible by 3, which means I can factor out a 3, which leaves me with x squared plus x minus 6. And then, oh man, this is that easy factoring we just did in the first part of this worksheet. 2 numbers that multiply to make -6 and add to make 1. Well, that's pretty easy, because -6 doesn't have too many. It has 1 and 6, and I want a positive, so I'll put that there. No, that didn't work. 2 and 3. Oh my gosh, check that out. That is my factored problem. Since we don't have a number in front of the x squared, I can just go to the easy, quick form, x minus 2, x plus 3. Oh my gosh, there's my answer. And look how long it took me. By remembering to factor a common term out from the beginning of the problem, my problem is so much shorter than all this crap I did over here. So for our last 4 problems, oh man, you've got to look for a common term. If you don't look for a common term, then your problem is going to be very, very challenging. So here we go. Let's start off this problem by looking at common terms. So I've got my 36x squared plus 6x minus 12. Well, what's the biggest number I can remove? The biggest number I can remove is 6. So I'm going to factor the 6 out, which means that inside my parentheses now, I'm going to have, let's see here, I'm going to have 6x plus 1x minus 2. Now that is so much of a smaller problem. Now you'll notice I changed my color to light blue. Now I'm going to do the entire factoring problem in light blue to show you how we can make this good here. 6 times -2 is -12. I want a positive 1x here, so as I list my factors here, I'm going to put my negative with the smaller number. And that doesn't make a 1 there, so here we go with 2 and 6. That doesn't make a 1. Here we go with 3 and 4. That does make a 1. So now I have 6x minus 3x plus 4x minus 2. Yeah, you see that dark blue 6? It's still there in the problem. I'm just kind of leaving it till the very end and then put it back on as the answer. Okay, let's go break these 2 down. I can factor out a, since that's a square there, forgot my little square. Sorry about that. I'm going to factor out 3x, and this leaves me with 2x minus 1. I'm also going to factor out a 2 here, so this leaves me with 2x minus 1. Now I've got my factored problem. 3x plus 2 is in one set of parentheses. 2x minus 1 is in another set of parentheses. You see that 6 up there? I haven't forgot about that since I put it in a different color. That needs to go in my answer. Now I could have brought it down for every single step, but it just would have looked kind of weird as I had a 6 laying out here with an extra set of parentheses. I just like to leave it off until the very end, just so I can put it back into the problem. And if I FOIL and then multiply everything by 6, you can see that it is the same thing. One little last comment about this though, if I'm to put the 6 into this problem again, you only give it to one set of parentheses. It does not get into both. So this would be either 18x plus 12 with the 2x minus 1, or it would be the 3x plus 2 and the 12x minus 6. You don't multiply both of these binomials by 6, just one of them. And test that out with FOIL if you doubt my words here. Okay, the next problem here, 3 to go. We have to factor something out of this problem. The number to factor out would be 4. That's the biggest, and you want to go big, because if you only factored out a 2, then you'd still have big numbers to look at. So here I have my factored problem. I'm going to change colors a little bit and work on this middle section here in, let's do red this time. No, how about purple? All right, so this whole problem right here is going to become my focus. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 again. And this time I want a negative 4 here. So I'm going to take a look at, making the second number negative. And I get that right there on the second try. So here is 4x squared plus 2x minus 6x minus 3. Okay, factor out the first two terms of a 4-term problem here. 2x looks good. That leaves me with 2x plus 1. And what do I factor out here? A minus 3. And that leaves me with 2x minus 1. Plus 1. Sorry about that. And that's a good thing to check. If one parenthesis doesn't match the other, check to see what you've done. So here I have 2x minus 3. And here I have 2x plus 1. And then I bring down the 4. So here's my final answer. Blam. Okay, moving on to the next problem here. Let's go check out this next one here. Let's change this up a little bit. All right, so is there anything I can do to make this problem easier? Well, sure. Divide everything by 3, and this makes the problem really more than 3 times easier. This makes this down to a 4x squared, this makes this down to 11x, and this makes this a 7. Now I'm going to focus just on this middle this trinomial right there, and multiply the 4 and the 7 by, here, let me change the color there. 4 and 7, that makes that 28. So let me list factors at 28. And I'm trying to get a negative 11. So negative 1 and negative 28 don't make negative 11. Negative 2 and negative 14 do not make a negative 11. And at this moment, some are thinking, well, I can do all this in my head. Well, that's great. Do it all in your head. But I'm showing you on this what I'm thinking right here. This is negative 3 and, negative 3 doesn't work. Sorry about that. Negative 4 and negative 7. That works perfectly to make my negative 11. So this is 4x squared minus 4x minus 7x plus 7. What do I remove from the first two terms? 4x, which leaves me with x minus 1. What do I remove from these two terms? Negative 7, which leaves me with x minus 1. Now I can put my 4x minus 7 together, and then my x minus 1 together, and then slap my 3 in the front, and voila, I have my fully factored form. And this is the fastest way to do this. Oh, shoot! All right, we got one more to go here. And sorry, you'll have to rewind the video to see that last answer, which was quickly removed from the screen. Hooray! What can we divide each of these by? I wish 4, but no, it's just 2. So this is going to be 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And I'm trying to get a negative 9x in the middle here. To get that negative 9x in the middle, I'm going to want my my bigger number to be negative, and here it is right there at the start. It's nice to have a quicker problem here at the end. Now I'm going to show you what this will look like if I keep bringing the 2 down. So this is going to be 2x squared plus 1x, again just temporarily, minus 10x minus 5. All right, now again, I'm bringing my 2 down every time just to show you what that would look like. What I'm going to do is see if I can factor something out here. So I can factor out a 2x right there, which gives me, no, I can't factor out a 2. I'm sorry. I can factor out just an x, which leaves me with 2x plus 1. And here I can factor out a negative 5, which leaves me with a 2x plus 1 here. And here's my double parenthesis for the 2 outside. Now my 2's right there. I can put my x minus 5 in one set of parentheses, and my 2x plus 1 in another set of parentheses. Phew! Well, you made it to the end. Hopefully you got to scan through this as you checked your work, but I appreciate you sitting through and watching the video. And as the bottom of this worksheet says, practice, practice, practice. You've got to put your pencil to paper and work these through and check your answers. Thanks for watching.